Okay, so Germany is paying 240 million for a plane that's available for 70. This is gonna be fun. Let's go. Right, then, welcome to Military Aviation History. I'm Chris, and let's quickly sum up the current F-35 situation in Deutschland, in good old Germany. I'll jump through some of the key points because the series of past videos, see here, has already dealt with all the details, but it is important that we are on the same page here on this one. Germany needs a replacement for Panavia Tornado, which fulfilled three roles in the Luftwaffe: strike, electronic warfare, and nuclear deterrence, as part of NATO's nuclear sharing program. Germany has no indigenous or multinational program to replace Tornado in a timely manner. After all, FCAS with the French sits in the far future, probably. And even though it was widely reported in 2019, Germany never ordered that mystical Super Hornet Growler package. And although the past Merkel government rejected the F-35 under Defense Minister Ursula von der Leyen, F-35 became one of the only feasible options for a timely replacement for strike and nuclear sharing, next to an indigenous upgrade to the Eurofighter platform. If you're wondering about other aircraft, I actually have this video right here why aircraft like Grünen or Rafale aren't really a good fit for Germany. Yeah, Germany lost a lot of valuable time on the question of Tornado's replacement, which bluntly, in a nutshell, has to do with past governments not really considering the armed forces all that important. That's a big can of worms. I cannot reopen it in this video. See my conversation with Bernhard from Military History visualized over here. This has even caused past defense ministers who really tried their best to finally find solution to a whole range of issues. For example, past Defense Minister Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer to eventually fail at the task of getting a replacement for Tornado. So that was the situation at the end of last year, 2021, when the new German coalition of Social Democrats, Liberals and Greens took power from, of course, Merkel's outgoing Grand Coalition of Christian and Social Democrats. In the new coalition contract from the 7th of December 2021 between the parties of the new government, the Tornado replacement and nuclear sharing was a key point in the chapter on defense, albeit with some vague language. Nevertheless, it stated that a replacement was to be selected within the beginning of this new 4-year term. New Defense Minister Christine Lambrecht stated that she wanted all viable options to be presented to her. Most people understood this as F-35 being back in the picture, although Lambrecht had made the announcement in front of a Eurofighter, foreshadowing the eventual split between nuclear sharing and electronic warfare. And then on the 24th of February 2022, Russia decided to invade Ukraine. Again. Only a few days later, the German Chancellor announced 100 billion euros for the German armed forces, plus an intended spending of 2% of GDP on defense in line with NATO guidelines. I can't go into the specifics here, still some open questions on that financing side, but an older video does cover some parts of it. On the 14th of March 2022 then, the German government announced its intention to buy 35 F-35s and 15 Eurofighters re-equipped for electronic warfare. And that brings us to the now, as the United States approved a possible foreign military sale, or FMS in short, of 35 F-35s to Germany for a package of 8.4 billion USD. And yes, that is 240 million USD per plane. Dramatic pause. However, before we go into the details, it's very important to recognize two things. First off, the wording, a possible foreign military sale, and the estimated total cost is 8.4 billion US dollars. The description and dollar value is for the highest estimated quantity and dollar value based on initial requirements. Actual dollar value will be lower depending on final requirements, budget authority, and signed sales agreements if and when concluded. Okay, those disclaimers out of the way. While the German Parliament and the Federal Council, the Bundesrat, have voted for the 100 billion euro special fund for the armed forces, by the way, the Air Force does get the largest part, 33 billion of that, the deal still has to be finalized. Well, the deal with the Americans still has to be finalized, and the prices may still vary. Also, the prices do appear to be extraordinarily high when broken down to individual airframes. For context, Germany would pay 240 million USD per wing, whereas several neighbors appear to pay less than that. Of course, it's tempting to compare these numbers, but we really shouldn't. They are, well, misleading at best. FMS are absolutely complicated. You cannot just compare one order to another and draw conclusions from that, because countries don't just buy an aircraft, they add the capabilities and systems they want. They have different setup costs, they have different long-term sustainment costs. It's like, imagine you go to this frozen yogurt place, right? And you get the yogurt. And then you can add different topics from basically the basic sprinkles over to going full on extravaganza. You can get cookies, caramel, chocolate chips, strawberry, Fruit Loops, cotton candy. You can even dash it off with a mini umbrella if you want to. And then you go and pay for unlimited refills. But it's not just you doing that, it's everybody in the queue, but they're all getting different combinations. To illustrate this, it's best to break down contracts into different broad categories. First off, you have the prime mission equipment, which is also sometimes referred to as flyaway costs. Basically, this is just the plane as you think about it when you're saying F-35. You have it in front of you on the tarmac, the hardware is installed, the software is installed, it's ready to go. That would be included here. Plus, sometimes, depending on how you want to cut it, you can also add the weapon systems in these costs here that you buy with the actual aircraft. You then have setup items. That includes things like initial spares, training simulators, training programs for the pilots, training for the maintainers, of course, as well, support in setting up operations, and support in setting up logistics as well. And again, sometimes these lists in these setup items also include the weapon systems, but that's a little bit of a moot point for now. And finally, you have sustainment. So this includes things like systems updates now and in the future, maintenance and overhauls now and in the future, as well as warranties where and when included. And as you can see, prices break down beyond just the airframe, which is obvious, but it's a point that keeps on having to be made. You are not just paying for this. That's just the flyaway cost. You are paying for all of this. There are, of course, contextual changes. For example, incorporating special wishes into their hardware and software will change the price. Likewise, the basic question of who does the maintenance, like the manufacturer, the indigenous contractor, an external contractor, and so on, factor into the price. Questions like that add complexity and costs, but they also need to be agreed on here at this juncture to make sure that the system in the end is not just introduced into the Luftwaffe, but it is also supported long term. So it doesn't make sense to bracket this question off from the actual deal and make a deal later on. No, you want to make sure that all of this is squared off at this point. That's just like the nature of the market, man. But you know what else is the nature of the market? Capitalist-inspired segments trying to get viewers like you. No, this is not a sponsored segment for some nonsense mobile game that I don't play anyway. This is about direct line-of-sight operations by which you can support this channel via, for example, Patreon or channel memberships. It's totally up to you. Chances are that you watch this stuff regularly, and that probably means that you like this sort of content. So just have a look at the support options linked in the description below, and supporters of course also get early access to videos. Right now there are like 5 videos in early access, which I do have to say is pretty good. Plus we also have a Discord channel for supporters with an absolutely awesome crowd. I meet regularly there with viewers like yourself, and it's always good fun. And it is also more cool to, you know, catch up directly, because this one dimension of me talking to you through your screen just isn't the same, right? Or if that's not your boat, you could also get if that doesn't float your boat, you could also get one of our books. We have like 3 of them now. There's something there for everyone. And yeah, that's it pretty much. Capitalism is over. Let's get back to the video. If you look at the intended sale to Germany, the prices being paid include way more than just the aircraft. We of course have the plane and the engine, and then we have the weapon systems that come with that, and then we have additional training and like auxiliary kits for these weapon systems, right? But beyond that, the deal of course includes various systems and avionics on top of that, countermeasures, simulators, training and support on weapon systems, software support, logistics, ferry of the aircraft, the fuel, the communication, navigation, encryption, spare parts, repair and maintenance, documentation, warranties, and so on. And that's where the costs start to ramp up. It's like really tempting like for myself to say, you know, these additional costs, they won't be that bad. When actually, no, they ramp up really quickly. For F-35, there are actually some sources out there regarding the costs of acquisition and operation, although they are, I have to admit, quite out of date from what I can find. But if we take those, you can get a quick approximation of the cost breakdown. And basically 40% for more or less would go into buying the aircraft, 15% into the setup, and that includes training, of course, and initial spares, and then 45% of the cost go into long-term sustainment via contractors. Remember, outdated figures. You cannot compare deals, but a quick sort of approximation, if we take 240 million for one plane, we get the following. Probably not accurate. Defense procurement and FMS are insanely complex. The people that know. Also, thank you to those that helped me with opening sort of this world to me a little bit. At least it gives you sort of a generic idea of how these prices actually break down. I know you like to get clear answers, but this is one of those cases where nobody except the people that make the deal really know. It is really difficult to ascertain what the exact price of an F-35 is already by itself, mind you. Never mind in a multi-billion-dollar deal, which is also why I'm a bit hesitant with the breakdown that I gave just now. Of course, there are some headlines out there that put the cost for an F-35A at 75 million USD. But more recent analysis actually puts it somewhere between like 110 million USD for the F-35A, 120 for 35C, and 135 for 35B. But again, that's just the flyaway cost. It's like going into a supermarket and buying an apple because you want an apple. And it is also ignoring some of the price fluctuation that we see, for example, with the favorable prices that program partners get and so on. And by the way, Germany is not a program partner of F-35. Of course, we also have to be mindful of defense inflation, which once again bears its ugly head because, well, the deals that were maybe concluded 3 to 6, 7 years ago on F-35 are being made in a completely different defense environment than the ones that are being made right now. Never mind from the monetary value of the money that you're actually paying it, but also from the geopolitical value. Now, because the nature of military sales dictate that you just don't buy a plane or a tank or a ship, but you buy everything that comes with it, prices inflate quickly, countries of course get different packages, and estimations are constantly out of date. And any direct comparison is immediately flawed. But it does provide a good headline, doesn't it? So there you have it. Deutschland is projected of paying up to 240 million USD per F-35, although of course the price breaks down further than just the actual aircraft. We will see what they will pay in the end. What's your take on this? Let me know in the comment section below. Also check out the description for sources and helpful links. I should also now be surrounded with links to click on as well, so you can go here, there, everywhere. Just go somewhere. And yeah, have a fantastic day. Surround yourself with friends and family, and see you in the sky.